in there.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to our 20th beer tasting. That's kind of a fun little milestone for us. In 6 weeks, we'll have officially been doing this for half the year. 26 beer tastings, 6 months, and we've managed to keep it somewhat fresh, even if we've kind of gotten in a loop lately of being IPAs and sours, this week being no exception. But, well, let's be honest, that's kind of what keeps bringing people to the table is IPAs and sours, and we'll get to it a little later on, but I have some kind of fun ideas for how we might break this up in future with some kind of interesting new ideas, such as cider or a gluten-free week. But we'll get there when we get there. So I want to talk about some of the Calgary breweries that we don't really talk about enough. I know the initial answer would be like, why is there an Annex on the table? We did an Annex week. Yes, we did. But I don't think Annex gets as much love as it really deserves. We'll talk about that when we get to the Annex, but there are now well over 50 breweries in Calgary. I went through the Alberta Craft Beer Guide from last fall, actually, is the one I had above my desk. And this listed 36 breweries as being open in Calgary, with another dozen on the horizon. And that doesn't even list breweries like Tail Gunner that have since opened up as well. So there are well over 50 breweries now in Calgary. So if you decided you were just going to go drink on a patio at a different brewery every single Friday afternoon for a year, you might not conceivably get to all of them. And that's madness. Because I can remember a time where, like, craft beer in Calgary, there was Big Rock and Wild Rose. Yeah, that's all there was. And now we have over 50 options, and that's not counting Edmonton, everything down south here, the crazy central Alberta scene with like Snake Lake and Blind Man. Just 50 breweries in Calgary. That's madness. Now, we have some really cool partnerships with 88, Cabin, Establishment. We're really working hard on having an even better relationship with Heathens. But there are so many really great breweries that we don't talk about enough. So I want to focus on these 4 right here. Zero Issue, Annex, Last Best, and OT. And I believe with the exception of perhaps Zero Issue, I know we've done at least one beer for all of these. No, we've done a Zero Issue as well. We did the Risa during one of our sours tastings. So let's start with Zero Issue. Got a fun story with Zero Issue. I actually had not heard of this brewery. I don't know if we'd seen a sample yet. But it was actually the folks at Round Table Board Gamery were the very first people who ever came in and just said, we want all the Zero Issue you can get for us. We want to carry the whole range. And I hadn't heard much other than the name of the brewery at that point. And we kind of, we felt like we were doing a bad job. Nothing we could have done, but like every single week, the Zero Issue stuff was just completely sold out. And it was week after week after week. And then Dylan from Dylan's Burgers started asking for the same. And then Corey from Two Guys started asking for the same. It's like, guys, I can't get beer for one of you. There's just no beer to be had. This is before I started driving up to Calgary every weekend to get beer. And I couldn't get it. And I got so frustrated with Zero Issue. And I actually kind of ended up having a bad feeling about the brewery just because I had so many people asking for it. And there was nothing I could do to actually supply it. As far as I can remember, the Innsmouth Sour has been a core beer for Zero Issue right from the very beginning. These guys started out in 2017. Actually, it's been just about exactly a year. I believe these guys had their first batch in July of 2017, pardon me. So this is a mango and passion fruit sour. Now, it's kind of funny. I feel like we're starting to see runs with fruit. Like right now, everybody has a guava beer in the market right now, including 88. Of course, Establishment has their pink guava sour. It's just been guava for days the last little while. But this mango passion fruit has been a staple beer for them pretty much since the beginning. And it's been just really nice and well received. Way before the sours got really hot. This was back when like the Florida Weiss was still in the old version from Blind Men, where it was like a dark fruit beer. I believe it was blackberry plum. This was one of the very few like stone fruit sours that was out there. So everything that we're seeing in terms of like peach sours and mango sours and everything else, they all, at least in Alberta, kind of stem from this one, which has been, at least for us, our best-selling Zero Issue off the shelf since the very beginning. So let's start right here. This is an American-style sour at 4.8% alcohol with mango and passion fruit. I'll quite like that. This has been one that I've really enjoyed for basically as long as we've been able to get it. I love the themes on their cans. As much as I appreciate establishments, our cans are black on white with a pattern, and I love just how incredibly minimalist that is. And I love, you know, 88's let's get back to the 80s, and Cabin's let's get back to the 70s aesthetics. All of the zero issue cans, from the core beers, which kind of come in these glossy cans, to I actually prefer their seasonal look, which are a little bit more textured and seem a little bit maybe more matte. I really like kind of their comic book pop culture aesthetic for all of their cans. I think they're really colorful, and I think they really stand out on the shelf. As opposed to Last Best right now, who makes some really spectacular seasonal IPAs, which I just spilled everywhere. Both this and the Burnout, they look really cool on camera here, but when I put these on the shelf, they tend to disappear, which is a real problem because like the Yuzu IPA here has been on the shelf for a while, and I think it's brilliant. Like people come in, what's a great IPA? You should buy that. And they'll buy something in a little more colorful can, which I think is very sad. I love the packaging, but it just, on our shelves at least, it tends to disappear. Yeah, and it is a very nice sour. It's not super aggressive. It's not as like bitingly acidic as say like the grapefruit sour from Phillips, or even their Risa, which I'll have to back me up here, I think was guava. Even that was actually quite a bit more sour than the Innsmouth. One of the things I wanted to show off here on the channel is we actually have two brand new sours from them. We have their strawberry. We have their strawberry guava sour, as well as their black currant sour as well. These are brand new for us from them. In honestly, the most fantastic looking cans I think we have in the store. These just dropped, and they actually allocated these to us, which I was really, really happy about, because now we don't have to worry about them selling out eventually, or immediately. So, you know, zero issues, biggest problem, never having beer solved. It's allocated, which is just wonderful. Big props to Snake Lake as well. Their new collaboration IPA, which they did with 88 and SYC, that was also allocated to us. So thank you very much, Snake Lake. You guys are always just so nice to us. And yeah, we'll get to the Mackinac Peach here in a second when we talk about the Annex, because Annex has just been killing it. And again, we're now on their seasonal list, so they're one of my stops in Calgary every week, and they've just been so helpful and so incredibly kind to. Like when I actually got there, I was loading up at Cabin. I was picking up the Forager, and I said, "Oh well, I've got to stop and get the Mackinac Peach." They're like, "You're lucky they let you have that. They're completely sold out at the brewery. I don't know how you have some, but nobody else is getting any." So thank you very much to the guys at Annex. They were really nice to us for that. And yeah, when you're looking for zero issue, at least for us, the core range is the Multiverse, which is their pale ale. Oh blimey, what the heck's the name of the IPA? Bright Orange Can. The Bright Orange Can, which is the IPA, and then the Innsmouth Sour. Wow, I had all the names in my head just 2 seconds ago, and that's gone now. If somebody knows the answer to that question, please let me know in the comments. That's going to bug me so badly. And that's fair, Deirdre. Yes, it's a grim beer that totally doesn't taste like fresh harvested peaches and a little bit like vanilla in the slightest. It's not something anyone should ever buy. It's definitely something that we should just leave for you and for me and for Craig. Yeah, I cannot think of the name of that IPA. I've been standing here just thinking about it. And I can't. It is over there. It's with the rest of the zero issues. It's in a Bright Orange can.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Aaron. Aaron's going to go find out what that beer is called, because my memory is just not what it used to be, apparently. We're going to move on to, honestly, when I was doing the research for this, I thought that Annex was going to be the oldest brewery on the table by a mile. And then I grabbed this handy book here, and I looked up Annex and said, oh, yeah, well, this is going to be, what, 2014 or something? It's like, no, February of 2017. This is like only 5 months older than Zero Issue here.
Nemesis.
Nemesis. Thank you. Nemesis IPA. So the core range is the Nemesis IPA, the Multiverse Pale, and the Innsmouth Sour, at least for us here at the shop. I believe they have a Pilsner or Lager or something that I don't carry. And then we always have at least 2 or 3 seasonals. I really hope they bring back their Cosmonaut or Equinox. Bloody hell, I'm really bad at names today. They had a really awesome New England Pale as well, which I don't think they're making at the minute. Let's jump onto the Annex here. So for some reason, I have it in my head that Annex is apparently a lot older than I think they are. I would have sworn these guys were 2014 or older, because I can remember, at least I have a memory, might be a false memory apparently, of these guys selling their beers in these 650 ml bottles. The packaging was honestly not spectacular, and I loved the beer, but my God, I couldn't give them away. They switched to 4-packs a little while ago, and they've just done nothing but sell better and better and better over time since they went to the tall cans. They're also one of the earlier adopters for us of the tall can format. And now, in particular, Forward Progress and Force Majeure are just 2 that sell every single week. And then this summer, I think probably in part because we did the tasting of it, but that King's English, the Black Tea Pale Ale, that's done really well for us. So we did have Paradise Found briefly last summer as well. I think we've done Growlers of Paradise Found in the past as well. So this is their Super Berliner. So Berliners, of course, are Berliner Weiss, or slightly tart wheat beers from Germany, or at least in a German style. This one has fresh ginger and is done at 6% alcohol, so much higher than most Berliners. Oh yeah, and you get that fresh ginger right away. I say fresh ginger. I think this reminds me more of like those hard dried ginger candy things. Yeah, I get the ginger right off the hop, and it's really pretty. Thank you, Chad. Nemesis it is. And yeah, Erin's wonderful. And look at that. See, that wasn't even your mom telling us you were the best this time. That's going to seem so disrespectful to people who are tuning in for the first time, but Erin's mom does occasionally just comment to say how good a job Erin's doing, and it's the nicest thing. She is proud of you. We're all proud of you.
Thank you, Kyle. That's really nice.
Yeah, so ginger, and yeah, earthy. Almost maybe a little tiny bit Parmesan cheesy. Like there's something further down here that I think is the souring yeast that's actually giving this not just, hey, there's a little bit of sour, there's a little bit of ginger. There's actually some more evolved, complex, and interesting things going on here than I initially got at the first blush. Because it'd be really easy to just say, okay, well, it's ginger, and it's lime, and it's sour, and it's crushable, and we'll just move on down the road. But there's some of the more interesting earthy notes from ginger that I'm actually getting on this that I wasn't really expecting. I've had this. I had last year's version, but I didn't remember it being quite like this. Yeah, ginger candy, exactly. And if that illustration is making sense to you, Eric, I'm glad, because it doesn't make a bloody lick of sense to me, so that's good.
It's like beer on acid.
Yes, it's beer on acid. There we go. So yeah, for Annex, we have their core range from them, which is kind of 3 pale ales. I think all of which now we've tasted on the channel at one point. So that's the Forward Progress Pale Ale, the XPA, whose name is escaping me because this is just not my day, and the Force Majeure, along with the King's English. And then for sours, we have the Paradise Found, and then as we all kind of gushed about earlier, we have the Mackinac Peach, which is really, really shockingly good. Is it the only peach sour I've got just at the minute? Might be, you know. If there's another one, I can't think of what it is, and it's not as good as the Mackinac, so buy that one instead. If you are going up to Calgary and going to visit some breweries, Annex is usually the place that when I go brewery touring in Calgary is where I have lunch. A, because the food is excellent, and B, because it's just really nice and central to a lot of breweries. If you're in the area, you know, Annex is directly next door to Establishment Brewing Company, so you can literally just kind of pop between the two back between like 30 seconds walk, and you're really very close. Not the shortest walk in the world, but a very short bike ride. Cabin's right there. Bourne, Colorado, of course, is directly across the street from Cabin. ADH just around the corner. There's actually quite a few breweries up in that part of Calgary now, and yeah, up in that Barley Belt region, be right by Banded Peak. Yeah, it's a really nice spot because, to the best of my knowledge, I mean, 88 has Noble Pie, but they seem to sell out a pizza pretty much immediately upon opening, which is great. The pizza's fantastic, I'm told, but again, I've never actually gotten to try it because they seem to be sold out immediately. Cabin has their hot meat pies, which are great. Establishment, I think they sell cheese buns from like a famous Calgary bakery. But if you want like a full-on lunch, I think Annex is really the only one of those that regularly has food that isn't immediately sold out. If 88's watching
Dandy
this,
does too.
does Dan? Oh, that's right, Dandy does. But Dandy's a bit out of the way. They're
they're
down further by 88, but even
kind of.
further down. Yeah, forgot about Dandy. Yeah, they have excellent food.
Mm-hmm.
Although they're not as central.
Nope.
Dandy's way kind of, they'd be like the far end of your trip through the breweries, as opposed to this, which is kind of, you could get from Annex to Establishment Cabin in Bourne, Colorado within 5 minutes on a bicycle in any direction. And Banded Peak.
Brewery toury.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be a lovely way to do it. Oh, you can apparently buy burgers at Annex and eat them at Establishment. I did not know that. Oh, and apparently the cheese buns from Glenmorgan. Man, Eric is just killing it today. Eric should be hosting this thing.
They're from Bootsma?
Apparently the cheese buns from Glenmorgan and the Bootsman Bakery here in town have the same family recipe.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
They do.
Eric, we should have you on to co-host one of these things when we don't have like somebody from the brewery on. That would be a lot of fun. And I would say everybody right now kind of has a nice patio for lack of other options. Establishment, I think it's this weekend. They're opening their secondary like add-on to their tasting room. But I think they're the only one without a patio of all kind of the major Calgary breweries in the Barley Belt that I've been to. They're the only ones that doesn't have any outdoor seating, and they have no space for it either. If you've been to Establishment, they're kind of tucked in next to a motorcycle shop, and like the parking stalls are only 5 feet from the front of the building. Like they would have nowhere to put a patio if they wanted to. And out the back doesn't really work either, because that's where all their shipping and receiving and loading and things is. So yeah, I mean, unless their landlord was really keen on like a rooftop patio, I don't see them doing it. But yeah, I think everybody else now, just for social distance, has basically embraced patio life. I don't know how that's going to work in the fall and winter, but you know. You're making fun of me, aren't you, Aaron?
No, I'm not. I'm looking at Nigel's memes.
Oh.
Never mind. You go to school with Barry McCockiner?
So Chad apparently did a bike tour on Father's Day. Annex was the last stop when you wouldn't be able to get back to the hotel. Well, the convenient thing is there's a hotel directly across the street from Annex. There's Establishment on one side, and there's a Holiday Inn on the other. So you don't have to, get home. You can just stop at the hotel. It'll be lovely. On to Last Best. This is the Clairvoyant Yuzu IPA. And this is the brewery I was really staggered. These guys started in 2014. And actually, the head brewer at OT actually worked at Last Best, apparently, which I had no idea. These guys started in 2018, which feels about right. But these guys have been around since 2014. That's Blind Man era. I had no idea that Last Best had been around this long. They must have been draft only for a while. And I mean, I've been always kind of aware of Last Best, but honestly, I couldn't have told you that these guys have been around since 14. That was the big surprise of doing research for this. I really couldn't believe it. So this is their kind of green on gold IPA livery, which, as I've already whined about earlier, does kind of disappear on the shelf, which I don't really love. But I love the artistry of it. I love the kind of beautiful yuzu IPA picture here, like the fruit hanging off it and everything else. I really like how good this looks. And I love how just sassy the Burnout Hazy IPA is, because it's super high alcohol. And their slogan for this is F bushfires, murder hornets, COVID, isolation, Tiger King, Zoom meetings, sourdough bar closures, racism, flooding, hailstorms, political corruption, the Mayan calendar, and 4 more months of 2020. Which really, if you added Broken Hand onto that, is about how I feel about 2020, yes. So this is their new IPA, which is absolutely killer if you're liking a little bit higher alcohol in your IPA. But again, the green on gold, just disappears on the shelf, which I find very, very sad. I'm hoping to talk about it today just in the hopes that people will say, oh, look, green on gold. It's almost like camouflage. I should buy that because it's probably very good, because generally the last best IPAs are. And Craig, you're clearly not paying attention, because the second that, we're allowed to, I am absolutely doing a bus tour of all of you folks to Calgary to go to these breweries. I've already discussed it with most of them, and we're going. That's just a thing that's happening. There is going to be a beer tasting Wednesday bus tour that's going to leave on Saturday morning. I've already worked out most of the logistics, except the bus part, which doesn't seem important in a bus tour. It's really just, it's the last step you need to arrange. But yeah, everything else is broadly sorted out. So this is the thing that is happening. Maybe some time for some brewery-specific signage. We need to finish the wine signage first. And I realize that's my fault, not Eric's, but Eric's actually finished all the wine signage for the most part for the store. I just haven't gotten it up and done. Thank you, Nigel. Have a good night.
Bye, Nigel. Bye-bye.
What are my thoughts on Dandy Brewing? I really like Dandy. And that, for me, is a reasonably recent development. Dandy was born out of a very specific vision. And they had this really pretty, golden ale, and they came out with a stout. And early on, they had this vision of making, malt-forward, Belgian or German influence kind of really interesting and very, very offbeat beers. They didn't have fruit beers particularly. They didn't have IPAs. And they really didn't have a beer, at least to my palate, that was an immediate sell to everybody. When we brought in Cabin, it was Cabin Super Saturation. I can sell it to literally anyone. When we got 88, it was yep, 88. At the time, it was actually the very first batch of Super Fusion. Yep, can sell that to anybody. And the same thing for a lot of these breweries. There was always a brewery that's yep, that's the beer that's going to launch the brewery for us. That's the one we're going to focus on initially. It'll be an easy sell, and it'll get us started. For Dandy, they didn't have that. And initially, they had, forgive me if anyone in Dandy's watching, really kind of terrible packaging. It's grown on me over time. They're cute little white cans with hand-drawn labels, so I really like them now. But they've also changed their styles a little bit, and they're starting to do, I don't think they've lost their soul. I don't think they've caved to pressures to do more IPAs and sours and nothing else. I don't think that's the case at all. But either the market has grown up enough to meet their vision, or maybe they've splashed more towards styles that are a little more easy to sell. Probably a little of both. Or maybe I've just become less of a curmudgeon. That last one definitely hasn't happened. I'm actually worse than I was 5 years ago. But yeah, no. I really like Dandy stuff. I'm selling more and more of it as time goes on. I absolutely adore Dandy in the Underworld, their stout, which they make in winter. Absolutely love that beer. So look for a Dandy event. Probably not immediately, but coming down the road, because I do really like Dandy. I like Dandy as a beer drinker more than I do as a retailer, because I like the beer a lot more than I like selling the beer. Oh, hello, Barry. Celery. I should probably talk about the beer, shouldn't I? Yeah, I could see celery. Celery, grass, kind of green growing things. Definitely in that celery into juniper berry. I get some real kind of West Coasty things off this, which I'm really here for. Obviously, now again, we've discussed East Coast versus West Coast to death, so obviously West Coast here. Totally clear, a little more orangey, so it's definitely seeing a little more caramel malt. And then the yuzu, which is a Japanese citrus fruit somewhat related to either lemon or grapefruit or pomelo. Very, very small. Never actually had a yuzu on its own. I've had several in beers, which probably says a lot more about me than it does yuzu fruit. But yeah, very nice kind of citrus addition to this. And I like citrus additions in IPAs. I can remember, this is probably going back 5-8 years, where just like New England IPA has kind of been everything in IPA the last year and a half. There was a while there where everybody was making a grapefruit IPA. Started with grapefruit sculpin, but I'll bet we had 6 or 8 different grapefruit IPAs on the shelf at all times, and it sold really well. Now the only like grapefruit IPA I can think of that's like a regular staple and it's only in summer is Fernie. Makes a really, really nice one. I think it's my favorite all of Fernie's hoppy beers. There's a couple of seasonals that are really nice, but of all their staple core beers, which is like Lone Wolf and Slingshot and the one I can't remember because apparently that's what we're doing today. I can remember 4/5 of everybody's catalog. It's not the Eldorado, it's the other. It's Hit the Deck. There we go.
Oh, yeah.
So of all the core hoppy beers from Fernie, I actually like the Real Peel Grapefruit IPA the best of all of them. It's been a real afternoon for tangents too, actually. It's been a very rambly one.
Brain farts and tangents.
Brain farts and tangents. Welcome to week 20. 6 more till we've been doing this half a year. And we still haven't run out of things to talk about yet, which is a plus.
It's a weird drink.
Dandy had a great black IPA years ago. Okay, can we block Chad? Look, there are very few things that will get you banned here, but praising black IPA, no, that's completely unacceptable. Yeah, black IPA or Cascadian Dark Ale or, you know, horrible nightmare beer. You pick whichever conventional term you want to go with. I know. Wonderful scent. I think the scent for me, celery is, the more this warms up, actually the more spot on that is. And I really would be curious to find out what hops they used on this. No, they don't say on the actual thing. They say tropical hops, but they don't say specifically which ones. I might also suggest that I only brought in like 2 or 3 flats of this, but remember what I said about being effectively beer camouflage. This has probably been here about 3-4 weeks now, so maybe it's a little bit past its absolute ideal peak. I don't think so, but that might be where the celery is coming from. And then those yuzu fruit, that bright lemon grapefruit note really does just jump right through at me. How about tool shed or village tasting? I'll get to that in a second because we were just about to cover things we would like to do in future, and I wanted to get everybody's feedback on this. What is black IPA? Cascadian Dark. Basically, it is anywhere from like a German Schwarzbier or black lager right up to like a stout or even a porter, but hopped like an IPA. Now, tell a little story. I ended up owning a shocking amount of black IPA in my fridge that it sat forever. This is going back, they still sell this product, it's a little different now. This is going back to when Philips made a product called the Hop Box. And they still do, it's not the same formulation as it used to, but it used to be 3 of their core IPA, which in those days was the Hop Circle. You got 3 of like a seasonal single hop IPA, which was usually like a pure Cascade or pure Simcoe or pure Centennial or something. You got 3 of the beer I was buying the box for, which was the Krypton Rye IPA, which I still think is the best hoppy thing Philips has ever done, and which they have literally never ever sold as a 6-pack, despite it being their best IPA. Hint, hint, Philips. And then to get those really cool 9 beers, of which 2 were exclusive to the box, you had to get 3 bottles of Skookum Black IPA. So I used to buy these hop boxes a lot, like probably every other week I buy a hop box, because I really loved the Krypton, I liked the Hop Circle, I liked the different one-off single hop IPAs, or sometimes they throw in like a seasonal, like the, in the theme of forgetting beer names, in fairness, this beer is like 6-8 years old now. They had a Belgian-themed or Belgian-yeasted hoppy beer. Forget the name of it. But yeah, you'd occasionally get really fun other like seasonal hoppy beers in there as well. And yeah, but you had to get the 3 damn Skookum Black IPAs. And I bet at one point I had 18 Skookums just chilling out in my fridge, not doing much except eating an entire shelf in my refrigerator. I have no idea why I didn't just put them in a box or shove them under my fridge or something. But no, they just hung out in there and ate up like most of my refrigerator because I couldn't drink them because me and Black IPA aren't friends. But yeah. It's basically a dark beer that's hopped really aggressively. And there are some people that really enjoy them. I can think of exactly 2 in my experience. And if you enjoy them too, then that's 3. I don't like them. I find that the dark malt combination very often makes the hops taste kind of soapy or waxy. And I found that to be the case across not all, but I would say most black IPAs that I've ever had. And I don't like the flavor profile of the big heavy hops combined with the dark malt. And the other one that I really find is maybe leads into this is they're not a huge seller for us or for a lot of stores. And as a result, like, okay, normally I just buy beer here because, you know, I get a staff discount and everything. But when I go around to other places, when I get the black IPA, not only has it been sitting longer at that retailer or at that bar, it's probably been sitting longer at the wholesaler or at the brewery because they are a very slow seller. So while the black IPA might be crazy good, super fresh, they tend to have a longer time sitting on shelves, even if in my view they tend to have a little shorter shelf life. So if you're at a brewery and they have the world's greatest black IPA, drink it there. Because by the time that it gets here, and it's a slow seller for the brewery, and then a slow seller for the wholesaler importer, and then a slower seller for me, it's going to be really hard for you to find it fresh. And with IPA, I know I keep harping on this point, it's all about the freshness. So, I don't know. I love the idea of black IPA. I've had a couple that I liked a bit, but I've never found one that just like blew me away with its awesomeness. So, yes, you got me on a rant. Well done. It's been about 3 weeks since we got a really good rant. So let's talk about a little bit about, so I want to return to the comment. What about Village or, what was the other one that was suggested? Heck, I've lost that comment. I had it on the phone for a while there. Village or Toolshed? Yes, good ideas. I like this. So let's talk about ideas that what I have had for the last little bit. So what we are already doing, if you joined us last week with Grant Flegg from Copper and Theory, goodbye book, that's gone. One of the things he kept talking about how much he enjoyed it was Strange Fellows from East Vancouver. So I said, okay, we could use something different. Let's try something new, because I've got some empty shelf spots and I want to try something fun. So I brought in 4 Strange Fellows, and here's the rub with this. With most of these tastings, I'll have had all of the beers, even if it was just last year's version or 6 months ago's version, or at least if I had a sip of it at some point. I might have spent an entire evening like picking it apart, but I know the beer. These just showed up today for the tasting. We're going to make up the mix packs tomorrow morning. I've never had any of these. I've never had anything from this brewery. And even when inevitably like the staff get into it and start buying 4 packs and sharing it around a little bit, I'm not going to. I'm going to refuse. I'm going to go into next week's tasting completely cold, completely blind. Never had these in my life. They could be the greatest thing I've ever had in my life. I could really hate it and have to make nice in front of Grant from Copper and Theory, because I'm going to try and have him back around to talk about Strange Fellows. But yeah, that's the fun thing we're doing next week, is not just beers I'm going into cold, an entire brewery that I've never tasted. I could hate this. And then you'll have to watch me force a smile the whole time and just talk through the whole thing like this. Oh yes, it's so good. I'm so glad we brought these in. This is wonderful. So that is next week. So we have a wit beer, a West Coast sour, a gin goza, and an IPA from the good folks at Strange Fellows. And I'm really hoping that Grant from Copper and Theory will come and talk to us about this again. Because let's be fair, he got a bit of a messy one last time because I was not in a good shape over my hand, and yeah, that was a bit of a tasting. That is never going in the greatest hits. You know, if we ever do a best of series, nothing from that episode is going to end up in it. But that's next week. But more interesting than that, let's talk about ideas for future. So a bit earlier, I mentioned that we've been really working on getting a better and better relationship with Heathens Brewing out of Calgary. Now, they're a gluten-free brewery. And I know, I winced a little inside too when I said that, but I went to Heathens. I've gone back and actually bought the peanut butter stout a couple of times since because I really, really like that beer. Would anybody be really open to doing like a Heathens tasting? And having like their head brewer on, because he's a super interesting guy, and he could talk us through some of his beers. I promise you they're not that scary. They are definitely gluten-free, but he doesn't use buckwheat, he doesn't use sorghum, he doesn't use any of those grains that leave a beer tasting oddly sour and kind of wheat husky and nasty. He uses really, really an interesting process to make his beers gluten-free, and the beers are very, very good. His West Coast IPA, it's 0 IBUs. He doesn't boil any of his hops. He gets all his hoppiness from this absolutely massive dry hop at the end. And it's one of the prettiest IPAs. I would actually sell it if it wasn't gluten-free. Same thing with his peanut butter stout. I think that would be a really fun one to try out. So that's one of my ideas. As I've been saying for a while, I do want to get Kelty and Chris from Theoretically on here. I think that will be happening sometime in September, so that will likely be coming up. One of the ideas Devin and I kicked around pretty aggressively actually on Monday. How do people feel about a cider event? We've done a couple of ciders, like exactly 2, as part of our wine tasting series, but we've never done like a dedicated ciders week. I'd be really into that. And the reason I'm kind of casting about for different ideas here is this week and last week in particular, it was IPA sour, IPA sour. Our Battle of BC was IPA sour. And to be honest, with what's new and coming in, like this is kind of what's new this week. What is it? Take a guess. It's an IPA and 3 sours. I don't want this tasting series to become IPA and sour of the week. I mean, I would enjoy that, but I don't think it really makes for compelling content. I think it would become very repetitive very quickly. And I'm not entertaining enough to actually make it not. So those are a couple of 3 ideas I've been kicking around. Oh, and Barry just jumping in with like crazy good information immediately because, oh yeah, Barry's from Vancouver. Of course he would know. Yeah, Ian Hill, the brewer owner of Strange used to brew the ESB at Shaftesbury before the head brewer at Yaletown. Oh, I've been to Yaletown. I've been to Yaletown with Barry, actually. One of Vancouver's craft brew pioneers behind us to the Forte. Oh, yes. Okay, yeah, we definitely have to do. Okay, that's going to be fun then. Cider, better time than cider. Okay, so yes, everybody's on ciders. And yes, Winter Ale will definitely be happening. I just talked to Adam from Snake Lake on, I want to say Friday last week. He dropped by to let me know that the beer name. Their new collaboration series, which is not called Base Camp or Camp Trip or any of that. It's something camping related. That is now out, and it's a Guava Spritzer IPA. It's the same base beer for 88 and for SYC and for Snake Lake. The only difference is it's being brewed in each unique location, and they're each using their own house yeast. I only got 2 flats from 88. And that's mostly gone. There is still some on the shelf though. But Snake Lake actually gave us 6 flats, which was incredibly generous of them. And we'll have that on the shelf. As far as I know, SYC wasn't even canning theirs till today. So we will continue to effort getting the SYC because I'd love to have all 3 of them through the store. Camp Trip. Does that sound right? Sure. We'll call it Camp Trip until Aaron goes and checks and proves me wrong. Yeah, it'll be with the 88s. It's got a really cool kind of camping themed can. The can isn't camping themed at all. He's gonna be there a while. Anyway, so yeah. Yeah, Camp 88, so yeah. Camp 88 apparently. 88 does have a barley wine coming. We did get it. We got 2 flats of it, but it is the single glass bottles at like $7 a bottle. So I can't quite fit it in at kind of $20 for 4 because I'm paying slightly more cost than it would actually cost to do the tasting with it. But yes, it is a fig barley wine aged in wood barrels. I don't know if they're bourbon barrels. I don't want to accidentally misspeak here, but yes, it's an oak aged figged barley wine. It's absolutely outstanding, by the way. It's called Skeleton Crew, and we do have that now. We got that, and we actually got a little tiny bit of 88 cider. The reason we didn't really do a post about any of these is I only got 2 flats of each, and while the barley wine 2 flats sold as a single will be here for a while, the cider and the Camp Guava Spritzer IPA, those are going to be in and out fast enough. I didn't want to do a post just because I don't think it's fair to somebody who saw the post, drove straight down, and it's like, yeah, we sold that out 2 days ago. I don't know. The really limited stuff I try not to post about just so I don't have a whole bunch of really disappointed, heartbroken people show up. It's the same reason we try not to do like really strict purchase limits with these either. Then raise the price. Yes. This beer sells out too fast at $19 a 4-pack. It'll be $40 a 4-pack. I wish things worked that way. They don't. which is probably for the best. Yeah, the 88 cider they've had on tap at the brewery for quite some time, and they just handed out to a tiny handful of accounts who've been working with them for a while. Hopefully the camera didn't just pick up that pour, because that pour was dog shit. There's beer bloody everywhere. Well done, me. Don't try to read comments and pour beer at the same time. Just going to quickly read through some of the suggestions real fast here. Gideon Dark's conversation. That was my rant. Porters and Stouts. Yes, Porters and Stouts will definitely be happening because a bunch of really, really cool ones tend to come out. Good Morning Vietnam will almost certainly be back from 88. There will be definitely a couple or three stouts from everybody, including... going back to our theme of never remembering what things are called, Zero Issue in winter has a porter or stout that they've done every single year for the winter, which I absolutely love, so that will be back. Blindman Trip Hammer we have done on the channel before. That was a lot of fun. We will bring that back. Maybe if we can find the budget for it, we could even do like a barrel-aged version of that, because we do occasionally see cans of that come through. And those are more affordable than you might think, because they do them in the smaller cans. I'd love to do a bourbon barrel-aged Imperial Stout. I think those are just fun. That'd be really nice to do. Yes, the Heathens, Winter Ales, cider. I mean, I think cider has to happen. We had a lot of love for the cider. So let's jump into OT here. OT is kind of a funny one. We know some of the guys involved with OT fairly well, and we've wanted to be super on board with OT from the very beginning. But they rolled out with silver labels on silver cans in the small cans. They seemed to get the memo that 4-packs were going to be the next big thing, but not 4-packs of small cans. OT the brewing has always been absolutely outstanding. The packaging and marketing has always somehow not translated. This looks great. The newest iteration of their packaging I think is very, very slick. But for a while there, they were going with silver labels on silver cans that you think this disappears on a shelf. Those were absolutely anonymous. Now, OT always has had great brewing with packaging that just kind of missed somehow. The 500 has been a real hit for us. I actually rediscovered 500 not this past SAG Craft Beer Festival. Actually, must have been the last one, 2019. Nigel had invited them to come, and I went up and I was like, okay, I know I like OT, but they poured me a regular 500. I was like, oh god, this might be the best thing at the whole show. And since then, OT has been just a regular shelf staple. I actually have the regular OT at the Prince of Wales this year down in Waterton, and is actually their best-selling craft beer by the can. They sell absolute buckets of the regular OT 500, which is very, very fun. Ooh, black licorice. In the nose, now that you said that, I get fennel seed. Maybe a bit. I'm not picking up on the licorice so much. Yeah, and this is a nice beer. This is a beer that's unafraid to have a big, thick, rich, malty background, which it would kind of need at 8% alcohol. It's got some sweetness, it's got some body, it's got some power, it's very balanced. This is kind of a danger beer. After 45 minutes under the hot lights, mine is getting a little on the warm side, and I'm starting to pick up the alcohol a little bit, but I've also had this cold, and I'll be honest with you, this is so lush and so juicy and so just wants to be your friend. You could put back 3 of these watching a hockey game and not realize that you're just a hot mess, so you got to stand up and realize your legs don't work. This is a beer that's just ludicrously dangerous. I like a beer where they bring that big malt background, they bring the richness, but the alcohol's hidden. It's not for me because this is now room temperature, but having had this cold a couple of times now, this is a beer that hides its alcohol very, very well and still shows rich and lush and drinkable despite being bloody strong. Actually, yeah, it's 8 flat.
Oh.
And I've heard their tap room's kind of weird. Do you want to expand on that, Eric? I haven't been to the tap room. We do need to do something with Med Hat. Actually, I'd love to do a Medicine Hat night with like Hell's Basement and Medicine Hat Brewers. But okay, just on my side, I would feel really awful and guilty about charging $20 for like a 4-pack of small cans. We made it work with Old Man River because we threw in like the bomber as well, but I want these to be really, really good value. So I'll figure something out. We might do like a weird mixed 5-pack. Oh my god, my staff are gonna hate me so much if I do a mixed 5-pack. But no, we could do something like a mixed 5-pack of like Medicine Hat beers, like 3 from Med Hat and 2 from Hell's Basement. Something like that could be really, really fun. And then you can hear me talk about how much I love Rise Against the Machine for 45 minutes, to the point where everyone will have logged off. And our YouTube channel will say 0 people watching because everyone will be sick of me talking about Rise Against the Machine. Which I still think, all these years later, it's one of the 10 best beers brewed in Alberta, full stop. It's glorious. The rye shows through, and it's chocolatey, and it's balanced, and you can drink it like a brown ale, but it kind of drinks like a porter, and it's different in the can. It's a little more steely, oaty, and in the on tap, it's richer, and it shows more, and it's spicy, and the rye doesn't come off as... I'm rambling about that bit. So if we ever do that, get used to about another 40 minutes of that. So maybe we shouldn't do Medicine Hat. Never mind, let's do Medicine Hat. Oh, and that's right, there is Travois as well. I always forget about those guys. If Travois is going to do tall cans, that'd be really fun, actually. It's like an over-the-top sports bar. You can't tell if it's ironic or sincerely trying to be the sportsiest bar in the city. That's kind of fun, actually. I mean, I kind of hope they leave that nondescript. If you want to take it as ironic or you want to take it seriously, I kind of like the idea of just leaving that up to you. I think Toronado in San Francisco kind of does that. Is it a super elitist craft beer bar with like the shishiest like reserve list in town, or is it a really shady, filthy dive bar that happens to have great beer? It's kind of both. I kind of hope they don't ever like fully lean into one or the other. And they have an ice bar, frozen service. Okay, now I just want to go to OT because that sounds really cool, actually. Because I'll be honest, I don't mind a sports bar. I like going with like the guys in the fantasy hockey league and just get on the sports bar and like eat wings and watch hockey and talk. Back when we were still allowed to do that. But at least we have hockey on TV again, so that's good. I think the urinal was wearing a hockey jersey. Stop selling me on OT so hard, Eric. Because this sounds amazing in a fully ironic sense.
The urinal was wearing a hockey jersey.
I'm on board with that, that's fine. I mean, it's a Calgary. I assume the urinal cakes wear Edmonton Oilers logos. Let's just fully lean into it. Why not? Ooh. You know, even warm, I still really like that. So, rankings. Rankings for me. Ooh. Where the heck do I rank these? I'm going to go a little off the board here and say 1 with the Annex Paradise. I really like that. I love the ginger. I like the earthiness. I like the richness. 2 on the double 5 Hundy. I like how much body that has, and I like the sweetness, and it had just enough bitterness to carry it off. It's kind of like Wave Pool. It's a little bit East Coast meets West Coast, and I really like that. By the way, for people who are growler people, 88 dropped us off a keg of Wave Pool on Thursday that had been kegged the day before. Day of or day after kegging Wave Pool is a bloody experience. We still have that keg. It's now exactly a week old, and it's a heck of an IPA right now. We have about a third of a keg of that one left after a week. So if you haven't been in for it, you should come in for that one. I'll go 3rd Innsmouth, 4th the Yuzu, but that's a tight crowd again. 1, 2, 4, 3, 1, 2, 4, 3, 3, 4, 2, 1. 1, 2, 4, 3. 2 by a mile, and then 1, 3, 4. 3, 2, 1, 4. And I will say, I thought this was absolutely genius when it first came in. I think that, as we discussed with the packaging, it sat a little too long. Please don't let the Burnout with its F everything theme sit that long, because this is also absolutely genius and is wicked fresh right now. We just got this on Tuesday last week, so this is really, really fresh. We also rejigged the fridge. I'll say this as well. For the last kind of since COVID broke out, stocking the fridge and organizing the fridge and making sure all of the labels were actually pointed down. That's been my gig until last week when I hurt my hand. So I turned that over to Mike, who actually completely redid the fridge this week. So everything has moved. He promises me it makes a lot more sense now. And I didn't let him take the Wayne Gretzky beers off the shelf, even though he practically insisted. Everything's different, but I think it makes more sense. He tells me it makes more sense. So if you can't find something, it's probably still there. We just moved it.
Just ask Mike.
Just ask Mike. He's around. I'm sure he won't be grumpy about being asked 100 things, because Mike's always grumpy. 1324, 1432. Growler's coming. Nice. Yeah, this was a lot of fun, folks. Thank you all so much for coming out and joining me. This was great. Yeah, next week we will have the Strange Fellows Brewery. I'm hoping to have, at a bare minimum, Grant from Copper and Theory. I'm kind of hoping he might be able to get one of the brewers from these cats to come join us. For new beers for us this week, if you like Eric's incredibly insightful comments, do come in and get one of the bomber bottles from Establishment that features his art, the Born to Run, which is a barrel-aged sour. We still have a little of that left. We also have, like I said, the Camp something IPA, or Camp Project IPA, from at the minute just 88 and Snake Lake, but hopefully soon to be joined by SYC. I will be going to Calgary again this Saturday. Normally I send a text out before this so I get answers back as to what will be coming in. I haven't done that today just because I had other things to do, because I'm really behind because I can barely do my job at the minute. Forager Triple Berry Sour from Cabin, brand new. And I think that's just about it, Aaron. Are you satisfied?
I feel good.
I feel good too. I could use a beer. How would you?
Yes.
Yes, let's have a beer.
Okay.
Not like that's not what we've been doing for the last hour. All right. Well, we are going to have a beer and take down a whole bunch of camera equipment.
Yep.
I'm Kyle with Andrew Hilton Wine and Spirits. Thank you again for joining us for another fun week. We'll see you next week for Strange Fellows, and I have a lot more confidence now about doing a Heathens or cider tasting coming up. So look for those theoretically, and maybe a Medicine Hat Week coming up, as well as possibly Village or man, my memory today. Wow, I almost got that exit done really well. Tool shed. There we go. Tool shed. Someday I'll be able to remember things, and that would be good. Okay, let's call it there, and thank you all very much, everybody. Good night.
Yeah.
Oh, mercy.